Hi, this is Jeff from the INTJ equation, and today I'm joined by Soulmil. He's an INTP from India. Would you like to tell the people a little bit more about you?
Uh, yeah, so I'm Soulmil and I just graduated last year, and this time I'm unemployed and I'm not really doing much. But as far as my background is concerned, I've had certain what they call spiritual awakening experiences, which has made me more relaxed into life. And yeah, that's about it, I guess. That's what defines me.
Okay, very cool. So you had some what you feel like a spiritual awakening then? I think I've gone through some similar stuff, but it seems kind of stressful actually.
Uh, Sorry, what was stressful?
I said like I've seen some spiritual awakening symptoms in myself and kind of just read about that stuff. You feel that it relaxes you more having a spiritual awakening? It seems like it's pretty rough for me.
So the initial uh, years are quite stressful because they just break down all the structures that you have ever known. So yeah, the initial structures, the breaking down of everything that you ever knew was true. That part is definitely stressful, but that was long gone. After that, I experienced the parts where you experience the bliss of nature and experience bliss of. So all of this is quite vague, so I won't go much into it, but there's just the kind of bliss that you feel after the fear has passed. And that's the, so yeah, it's both. I mean, one thing that is clear always that those kinds of awakening experiences definitely don't provide you with security. So yeah, so when you're not secure, you would obviously feel a lot of stress, but ultimately it's kind of relieving. Hard to explain.
What kind of epiphanies did you get from your spiritual awakening? Did you like you need to do something in life? You found your meaning in life, or
Now it was, for me, the most important thing has been to be present and see the how everything is transient in nature, and to take, and that nothing should be taken seriously because everything is transient and everything is going to pass. So yeah, that is what is relaxing about it in one way, because everything is going to pass anyway, so don't be serious about it. Yeah, that's the reason why the unemployment doesn't make me fret a lot. It's just that something will come up if it needs to.
it's a very good way to look at life. I don't know if you have like any philosophy in India, kind of like sounds like maybe like Taoism or something similar to that from China. It's kind of like
Yeah, Indian philosophies tend to be a bit more pessimistic as far as this is concerned. So I definitely relate more to Taoism and Zen Buddhism.
yeah,
So yeah, more on the Chinese side.
like the Wu Wei, just kind of let things be, they'll resolve themselves, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the way to look at it. More like it's already resolving. I mean, not that it will resolve someday, but it's already fine as it is.
very cool.
But if it's just a belief, then it's just a bunch of um, like things, just comforting talks that you tell yourself, and you'll break down on at the worst moments of your life. So it's not a belief that you need to incorporate, but really see for yourself. So if one doesn't see that, then they don't shouldn't really believe this, because if you just believe this and you don't see it, then you'll suffer from insecurity somewhere deep inside. So that's why I don't talk a lot about it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of easy to say, but it's kind of hard to do, I feel.
Yeah, uh, yeah. It kind of happens when you don't really have anything else to do. When all of your plan fails, then you have to kind of see it this way, or there's no choice. So until and unless all of your plans are just going wrong, until and unless that happens, you will always want to find fulfillment in the future. So so it doesn't it isn't something that happens just in our normal life. Something terrible has to happen. I'm not saying that something terrible has happened with me, but normally that's the case.
Usually that's what kind of triggers a spiritual awakening. You just go
Mhm.
through like a really rough part of your life, and it's like, wow, I've been living my life the wrong way, and you just kind of get a new philosophy, a new outlook. Is that something that kind of happened to you, or did it just kind of snap? I know some people just like wake up and, oh, I'm doing things wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a bit of both. I mean, nothing really bad happened as such, but everything like I had a few friends, and then I left them when I went to some other city, and then I went back to this city again, hoping to meet my old friends, and then I saw that these were same people, but uh, I mean, these were same faces but different people. So the uncertainty of it all, and then all of my beliefs. I mean, I was born on in an environment with kind of rigid Hindu philosophy, Hindu belief systems, rigid fundamentalist, and not extremist, but some fundamental elements were there, and suddenly all of these beliefs just collapsed. And so when these belief systems collapse, you kind of go into a terrifying and an unknown place. So nothing bad really happened, but beliefs collapsed, and they seem like a bad thing happening. So
Yeah.
internal bad things happen.
Okay. So that's very cool. Before we talked before, I didn't know anything about like, having a spiritual awakening, but that's really cool. Just kind of like the pop up here. To go back to kind of like the union side. So you're an INTP. What is your experiences being an INTP?
Experience from the outside world has been usually that everybody thought of me as a weirdo. That was from a very beginning. So that was always there, and it was because of two reasons. One, I was very quiet, obviously, and when people talked to me, I didn't really need their company, so they thought that, well, I just gave him an opportunity, and yet he is pushing me away. What's the matter with him? And the other thing was that my belief systems were quite different from the people who were with me. So I was not interested in who was popular in high school. I was not interested in the popular topics. I was not interested in anything that people were talking about. So I could feign my interests, but that was FE inferior, extroverted feeling inferior to please other people. So I would feign my interest in things, but I was not really interested in anything. So seeing a very weird interest of mine, they did think that I was weird. Um, Other than that, I think one of the things is that yeah, being an INTP guy is being very different from other guys because you're not really interested in sports. It, I mean, you're interested in watching sports. You're interested in recording events of great events of sports. You're interested in memorizing the names of the great players, but you're not really interested in playing, or you play very badly even if you do, because of extroverted sensing trickster function, as C.S. Joseph would call it. So I think that played a part. I also had my shoulder dislocated thrice, and then I had to go for a surgery. So yeah, being an INTP has been a weird experience, but I wouldn't trade it for anything else. I'm fine with being it. Yeah.
INTPs are probably my favorite type. I love talking to them. Definitely, someone that's definitely smarter than I am. I can learn a lot from them, in most cases, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what kind of sports are popular there in India?
Cricket is by far and large the most popular sport in India, but I lost interest in it in 2011. So that was a long time ago. And since then, I don't really know the names of any player in India. It's again one of those things where INTPs are not really interested in what is happening around them. So yeah, cricket is popular. Hockey was largely claimed as the national sport of India, but nobody was really interested in it. It was just because um, some Indians in early 1950s or something won some hockey World Cup or something, and so that made them popular.
Oh yeah.
Hockey was popular, but cricket is by far and large the most popular sport in India, and people also watch football, which you guys call soccer. So so I've been a fan of football, and I'm still watching Euro 2020. So Euro 2020. Today is the semi-final of England versus England versus Denmark. So yeah, some people are fascinated by football.
Yeah, I never understood it. I never really understood team sports. I do judo, so it's like an individual sport there. Is that prevalent there at all?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I don't really like to play team sports. I would rather be jogging, hiking, anything really, or indoor games like competitive indoor games like chess. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm not a good chess player by any means. I'm an impulsive chess player. I don't strategize. I just go there. And my INTJ friends have made fun of the way I play chess because INTJs are the masterminds. So, and I don't really have the patience for it. I know that I could master it, but I don't really have the patience to really strategize beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah, chess is fun. I don't really play it too often, but it's definitely a good way to build your strategic skills for sure. All
Yeah.
right, so we're talking a little bit about your country, India. So it's obviously one of the most populated countries in the world. And you said you live in the
Mhm.
city, so I imagine that's pretty hard for an introvert, especially an INTP. It's probably one of the most introverted of the types.
There's an interesting way to look at it because if you Google um, the phrase, what cities do INTPs like, or what cities are ideal for INTPs, the answers would be New York City or uh, anything of that sort. And you would think that, well, INTPs are introverted, so why do they like a densely populated city like New York City? And the reason is that when there are too many people around you, nobody really cares about you, and that's kind of uh, um, that's kind of really helpful for an INTP because you can really have your alone space even if you're surrounded by people. So more than that, there are obviously lots of happenings in a city that can fascinate an INTP because an INTPs are observers. They don't really like to be involved in anything, but they like to observe. They like to observe different things. They like to observe human architecture, a human civilization. So I think dense population is one of those things which are not really that much of a problem for INTPs, or at least me. But it is when people start caring about you, when there are a lot of people around you and everybody is caring about you, that's the main problem. And that happens a lot in India. India is full of people of SJ types, ESTJ, ESFJ, ISFJ, ISTJ. And I've had these people, and they are very interested in your affairs, in your life affairs, especially Indian cultures, especially makes it pronounced. So they want to know what your yearly salary is. They want to know your plans for the next 15 years. They want to know everything. So uh, that's the challenging part. It's not the dense population that's a problem.
Yeah, that makes sense. I came from a really rural community, and there just wasn't a whole lot to do, and kind of everybody knew everybody. So it was kind of like, kind of get out of my business sort of thing. And yeah, it makes a lot of sense just going to like a city, like the city I'm in right now is not very big, but you're just kind of able to blend in and do your own thing.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk a little bit about the caste system and stuff in India. Like you said, that makes sense with the SJ types and stuff like that. We're going to keep the things the way they were, and caste
Yeah.
system can be pretty brutal there, right?
Uh, so there's this thing. I belong to. So there are various languages in India, and you can just say that my voice is echoing. Yeah. So you can say that there are many languages in India, and each language has its own ethnic group. So there are many ethnicities in India, and I am what you would call Bengali. So I'm just giving a little bit of background. So Bengal is a region that includes Bangladesh, but it's not just Bangladesh. So there is a state called West Bengal in India, and Bangladesh was the East Bengal of India, and this is the West Bengal. So Bangladesh separated from India.
Mm.
So in this region, caste was never as pronounced as the rest of India. Uh, we, as early as 1700s, we had something called Bengali Renaissance period, where there were people like Raja Ram Mohan Roy and others uh, who voiced against the traditional practices. And there was also somebody who said that what Bengal thinks today, India thinks tomorrow. Well, it's not the case right now, but what it meant was that Bengal had shattered the traditions that were still existing in the rest of the parts of India. So what it means is that Bengali tradition is different. In Bengali, the tradition is more like you follow the philosophy of Marxism, left. My family doesn't have any history with that, but there is a leftist ideology where you reject all the religions and everything, and you just want everything to be equal. So Bengal is entirely different from the rest of India. But yes, caste system is very pronounced in rest of the parts of India, and they do a lot of stuff. Like intra-caste marriage is a thing. If you belong to a certain caste, then you don't marry outside of that caste. You marry someone of the same caste. My parents did the same thing, but it wasn't really that strict because my aunt didn't do that. She married someone outside of their caste. And there is no pressure on me. I can marry or not marry anyone I like. My family is pretty liberal on that sense, so it doesn't really trouble me much. But yes, there are people who would judge me for sure.
There's still like a thing, like in certain parts of India, with like the untouchables, where they're not a part of the caste and they just get treated like really bad. Is that still like a thing over there, or
It
is that?
happened, and it's like it happens, but you could say it's like it happens to 1% or 2% of the community in the cities. I've always lived in cities. I'm not really in touch with people in the rural areas, but people in the rural areas do face these things. I'm sure of that. I haven't really witnessed anything of the sort firsthand, but uh, I have really seen a lot of things affected by caste, like not untouchability, but people vote uh, for politicians that belong to their own caste. So it doesn't matter how bad a politician is, if they belong to your own caste, you're going to vote for them. It doesn't happen in every part of India, but it happens in two big states of India called UP, Uttar Pradesh, and Bihar. I've been to Bihar. I've lived in Bihar for 4 years. I've seen that. And untouchability is not a big issue. in most of the places, but there is certain things. And then there is a thing like affirmative action in USA, where I think I have heard that I've seen that in this movie American History X, where if a white person and a black person, both of them are getting the same job and both are equally qualified, maybe the white person is more qualified, but still they would take the black person because of the history. So that kind of reservations do exist in India, and it's huge though. 49% of the seats are reserved for the caste which were historically repressed. So people like me who belong to Hindu high caste, I'm a Hindu high caste, so by birth, so I belong to those people who don't get any advantages of reservation. So it affects me in that way because I it 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 kind of drives emigration. That's why, because a lot of Hindu high castes leave India for other countries, because in India the people of lower caste are getting more opportunities, which is fine. I mean, I'm not really giving any sort of judgment because they need to be brought out of their bad conditions, and it has helped. But right now political parties are using these reservation thing for um, gaining votes. So uh, and that's what anybody does, so it's fine. But yeah, so that's about it.
So you're a Brahmin or Kshatriya?
uh, so b- Kshatriya, you would say it's Kshatriya, but we are called Kaistha. Kaistha is the king's administrator. Kshatriya is the king. If he is the king, then you are the king's administrator. So, but that was a long time ago. Like in Bengal, there hasn't been a Hindu king for like 700 or 800 years.
Hmm.
So, Bengal is a different region. Like in other regions, there have been Hindu rulers for as recent times as 100 years ago. There are still people who are descendants of those rulers, Hindu rulers, who still have authority and power. But not such case in Bengal. It was ruled by the Muslims and then the British. So yeah, that kind of completely removed the existence of caste systems. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, caste is the word you're looking for. King's administrator.
I just was a religious studies minor in school, and I did learn about like Hinduism and a lot of
Oh,
the
awesome. Yeah.
religions and stuff that
So
came out of India.
uh
It's just such a rich, old, ancient culture. It's just kind of
hmm
fascinating.
yeah, it's kind of the same like clergy and nobility, right? Clergy, Brahman, nobility, Kshatriya. So
Yeah. So the caste system is just kind of interesting. It's just like you're born into it, or or you're just born at the bottom. It's just kind of unfair system. It's pretty brutal.
yeah, I mean, it's hard for people in certain regions of India, definitely, but I haven't felt any impact of caste system whatsoever. It just hasn't been there. Yeah. I've witnessed it for others, sure, but I mean, I'm a Hindu high caste, so you might say that I should not witness it at all. If I were a low caste Hindu, then maybe it would have affected me. I don't know. That's the sad part. I don't think I have friends of Hindu low caste. Uh, there are very few friends that I have. So there is some sort of separation for sure. It's just not apparent. Like for some reason, the friends that I make turn out to be people from high caste. So I don't know why that happens, but it happens. So yeah, some way it's maybe they're getting less opportunities. Maybe.
Mm. Yeah, I think there's gonna be racist and prejudice no matter what. So what's it like being a TI hero? I have a hard time imagining just being like a TI hero since just being like NI hero. What is it like in your
Yeah,
head?
just the same way. Just the same way. I have hard time imagining an NI hero, so I can understand that. So for me, the effect that TI has on me is that I need to have an internal structure, internal logical structure of the way that I'm thinking, and if something, everything has to make sense. So I think that is a very generalized way of saying it because everybody wants things to make sense. But it's like you don't accept any belief system. You question everything and you ask a lot of questions. If you ask me a question, I'll ask you a question back. And that's how TI Hero goes. You're never really sure of anything. You penetrate everything in great depth until you can finally sort of make a conclusion, but then any steps up and you have to again evaluate your theories. So TI works in a way that you spot um, inaccuracies in the statements of other people quite well. You spot, you're good at proofreading. My friends give me stuff that they write for proofreading. They give me research papers, and especially ENFP with their TI trickster. They have no idea about these sorts of things. So what they do is they give me. I have had two or three ENFP friends who have given me certain documents to proofread, and it's like in one page I found out 40 or 50 mistakes. Can you imagine? Like there would be 200 words out of it. I can find out 50 or 60 mistakes, and it's kind of hard. So for others, so I did this research project in Chicago where my professor was probably an INTP, definitely a TI hero, and he would spot mistakes in what I would write, and that made me realize how frustrating I can be spotting all of those mistakes. So what it means is that as it doesn't mean that you are good at spotting your own mistakes because you don't really care about your own mistakes. But when people give you something to find out mistakes, you find them out. So it's really about internal logical structure. And that's about it. People associate it with knowledge, but I think knowledge is more of a SI domain. So uh, yeah, TI is just about maintaining a logical structure, asking the questions, keep asking the questions. Does it make anything clear, or um,
Yeah,
what
it
are you
makes
looking
sense.
for?
I mean, TI is like a big problem solving function. It's just made to find
Yeah,
fallacies and
that's the
things
right
like that.
word. Yeah, yeah, that's it. And that's why you don't really make a plan because what TI Hero does is that it kind of make finds out flaws with all the plans that you can think of.
Hmm.
So what INTJs work on, I think, is based on probability, like what is going to succeed. And there's a quote which says that if you are, um, I don't know, let me. So it says if yeah, nothing is really correct, nothing is really true. It is about what works. So but for some reason INTPs don't accept that. I mean, it's true, but still no INTP is satisfied with that. They want to find the truth, and every so-called truth that they lay their minds upon, they find a mistake with it, and that kind of just goes on. So that's what TI is. It breaks down everything and finds nothing because uh, yeah, so that's
I really like running my ideas by INTPs, especially, and just trying to find out, like what could go wrong. But I think with NI, it's a little bit different that we make these plans, we make these dreams that haven't happened yet, and we got to kind of bring them into fruition and make them happen. And I know INTPs, they don't really like to act because they're more control. They like to gather all the information, then like attack or do whatever their
yeah,
plan is, right?
yeah, yes, yeah. Fruition is bringing dreams to fruition is not one thing that INTPs are really good at because yeah, acting is not really a strong suit for INTPs. They would probably find out 100 reasons not to act. So um, yeah, they don't want to settle for anything less than perfect. And if you want to bring out any idea into reality, you have to make certain compromises. You have to see reality for what it is. And work accordingly. You have to think in terms of probabilities, and INTPs only want to do that which has 100% probability, and there is no such thing. So INTPs don't act. And then there is always the challenge of what's the point, the nihilism. So
Mm.
it is not something that affects me now, but I've had an INTP friend who like took his own life. So uh, it's like that's what he said. I mean, what's the point? That's what his response to everything. What's the point?
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry to hear
uh,
about your friend there.
yeah, I was just giving an example. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is bad. I mean, it seems like there's no way out, but it's fine. I mean, if your external circumstances are fine, like if an INTP uh, has insurance of food and games and books, then an INTP is fine. An INTP doesn't need that. But even for those things, you have to kind of pay for bills, and then the INTP asks, "What's the point?" It's like the NI critic in the INTPs. Uh, they question all of their wants.
How does your any work, your any parent? Have you developed, like, found ways to develop that yet?
I'm not sure if it has developed. I mean, what it does is that yeah, I can compare myself to the other INTPs I think that I know, and I think that compared to them, my NE is more pronounced because I have explored a lot of things, a lot of different topics, and but yes, I feel the resistance from SI. It says that, well, I know enough about this thing, and I don't really know much more about it because I already know a lot about it. But the NE just makes you open minded enough to find out the answers. But overall, NE is just something that you use that I use when I'm stuck somewhere, or when I'm moving ahead with a plan. Then NE is like, should you really do it? So parent function is more pessimistic because it is like the parent. So, uh, so yeah, I have seen any. It makes me consider things that I wouldn't otherwise consider. So it has made me stop compulsive habits because it makes me realize that if I continue to do compulsive things, then the consequences would not be very good. And Annie has made me very abstract, obviously. Um, I think uh, it is, yeah, I think it is developed enough. But you see, the users who use Annie a lot, they kind of annoy me, like ENTPs, ENFPs, ESTJs, and ESFJs. I mean, they don't annoy me all the time, but when they use their any a lot, they kind of annoy me because my TI-NE combination wants to tackle one problem at once. And when it has explored one problem with every angle, then it wants to tackle the next problem. But the any users are like, hey, have you considered this? Hey, have you considered that? What if this? What if that? And I'm like, well, I'm tired. Just let me focus on one thing for right now. I'll think of the what ifs later. So in that sense, any users. So I don't know if I'm that open with any, but yeah, any is developed to some extent. So I've had an ENTP friend in the past, and this ENTP friend of me was much better than me at solving finding approaches to solve problems, because when I could be stuck in one way, he would find various ways to tackle it. So not as developed as the NTPs, but it's fine.
Yeah, that ties into perfectly for SI child. It's just if you guys are comfortable doing something, you guys won't get out of that rut, right? That's kind of like you're saying, like you get these habits and stuff that are not good, but you're just comfortable doing it. Is that how SI works for you?
Ye- yes, I mean, Yes, because there are certain habits that have been developed as a child, and now they have just been there. So yes, any steps up from time to time and makes me stop. Like I don't have those same compulsive habits that I had a few years ago when I used to play computer games for like 2 or 3 months every day, 4 or 5 hours continuously. Right now, if I play for 2 or 3 days, then my Annie pops up and says like, "Hey, you need to think about other things. You cannot just go on with um, doing playing computer games. You can do that later." So it has developed in that manner. But yes, SI is a tricky function. It makes me continue to do these things, uh, these habits. Yeah, it has made me stuck in a rut, as you said. But it is getting less and less pronounced. I feel it.
Okay. Yeah, SI is one that's really low in my shadow, so it's kind of one I have a hard time understanding.
Yeah, yeah, I
So then,
can understand that. Yeah, just the
yes,
way I have a difficulty understanding FI. I think I do, but yeah.
yeah, we'll get there for sure. The next one's even like I
Definitely.
just don't get it all. Your FE, how's your FE inferior? I know you talked about it a little bit
Yeah, I
earlier.
would say that FE Trickster. First of all, I have seen many INTJs behave in ways that is just not the way an FE users would, an FE user would. Anyways, FE is inferior function in INTPs. So by default, what it did in me was it made me people pleasing. It made me want to escape conflicts at any cost. That it did, and I would always say yes when I wanted to say no. Something very common problem with a lot of FJs, but it also happens with INTPs. Uh, it's the unconscious, I think subconscious ESFJ, right? So that happened. But what FE does is it kind of gets you into the emotional zone of the moment, what people are feeling. So it happens that when my TI says something, my FE is like it automatically it detects the problem with what I just said. So I just said something and I immediately know that I said something offensive. So FE is there, but TI can sometimes get carried away. So mostly I do end up offending people. But FE is there, and I think recent times FE has developed a lot. So I have stepped into the ESFJ subconscious a lot. I'm the first one to help people. So if I'm in a group of people and if somebody needs some help, I'm the first one to say, "Hey, do you need help? What can I do for you?" or anything of that sort. So it's usually in INTPs, it's more repressed, the FE, because they're afraid that they're not caring enough. So, um, so the way you tackle that fear is by actively helping people. So then you have the right to say that, okay, I've helped you enough, and now I can just step back. So it happens, but still, FE is still not as developed because sometimes my TI kicks in. If I'm helping somebody for too long, then my TI kicks in and say, "Hey, you need to be alone. Just leave them." So it's there. I can hear all the thoughts, but it has definitely developed a lot more, and it's a satisfying experience to help other people. FE, I mean, I'm not saying that the FE users are the only ones that help people. T users also help people, but T users help in a different way. They decide the right courses of action and then they make other people do it because it's right for you. Don't be stupid. But in case of me, it's more like, what do you want? I'll give you anything you want. Like, so it's like I don't care if you're being stupid or not. It's
Yeah,
just that I want to help you.
yeah. Oddly enough, the guy who got me in judo, who kind of mentored me, was an INTP, and it's just It's definitely a very SE driven thing, but he's just like very safety focused. And if you get hurt, then he's like, oh my God, he's all trying to bandage you up and wrap you up and massage it out and stuff like that. But if he gets
Yeah,
hurt and you ask how he feels, he blows up on you. But I definitely want to get the shadow function with like FI demon. If you, that's like one thing I found out, you never ask an INTP how they feel because they don't like it very much.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That happens because when somebody asks you how you feel, you're like, how does it matter? What's why are you asking this? It doesn't matter at all how I feel. Let's just tackle this situation and stop and forget about how I feel.
Yeah.
So
Another
yeah.
INTP I know had a heart attack, and I asked like, "How you doing? Are you okay?" And he just blew up on me like, "Okay, I'm sorry."
Yeah, that's happens.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Blowing up episodes have been very less frequent though. The last time it happened was, um, I think it happened 4 months ago with me. But that was when an ESTJ would call me like 20 times a day, literally. I wouldn't pick up his call, but he was that persuasive. So I had to just shut him up. But I could have just told him not to call me. I did tell him, but I could have told him more assertively. But instead, I just blow up. But that doesn't happen a lot at all. Uh, it used to happen when I was a child. No, when I was in 11th grade, when I was 16 or 17. It used to happen a lot then. I used to shout at pretty much everybody. So just like that. So I've experienced that.
Yeah, it's not easy to make INTPs mad, but it's possible.
Yeah, definitely.
How does your TE nemesis work? I know like INTPs can be insanely arrogant with their TI hero, and they think other people are stupid or they're scared of other people being stupid. How does that affect you?
So T comes in, T is unconscious ENTJ, right? So unconscious ENTJ does come up through me. It has in both ways, in conscious ways as well as unconscious way, it is rightly called. So the unconscious way is that when somebody is not doing the way things they should be, if they're slacking off. So most of the times, an INTP is fine with it. The FE inferior is okay. Let them be how they want to be. But then the TI is like, well, no, things should make sense. And then the T pops up to make things sense. And I just dominate people. And it's weird because the dominance is kind of forceful instead of just normal assertive. You just become forceful and people see a different side of you altogether. You are willing to beat them up. I mean, it is weird, but it has happened that I've involved myself into physical fights. Might seem like an SE thing, but it's more like an ETJ thing. Definitely ENTJ or ESTJ thing. So yeah, what happened was that I just uh, yeah, beat people up to make them understand that this is how things have to be. It has happened. It is very infrequent. It is very seldom that it happens. Probably will never happen. And then consciously TE comes up when you need to organize things. Like it is not something that I like to do. I would rather not be organizing things, but it works well. It's TI versus TE always. I can see it's rightly called nemesis because I can see that when something is required, my T steps up and it can do things pretty well. But then I'm like, okay, I've done enough. I don't want to do this. I like take care of yourself. I don't care anymore. So TI again. So yeah. So T is strong, but it just disappears because I don't want to use it. I can use it, but I don't want to. That's the thing.
Yeah, so I mean, probably similar with your NI cynics critic there. Like you're pretty critical about what you want because you see other people being stupid about what they want and what they're going for. So you kind of just don't want anything. Kind of ties in the inaction thing, right?
Uh, yeah, it happens. It happens with Yes, it adds up to it. If you look at it that way, it does add up to the inaction thing. So what happens is that um, you don't really pursue anything that the people that you really hate or think that they are stupid, if they're doing it, you don't really want to do it. Don't want to do it at all. And that's why I really love doing research. I mean, I've had 3 or 4 research projects under my belt, including one publication, but I don't want to proceed with it. I mean, it is an obvious pathway for me. It is an obvious career pathway for me, but seeing my last professor who was an ESFJ and thinking that how an ESFJ got, I mean ESFJs can get into this thing, no offense, but he was an underdeveloped ESFJ who really just cared about making his name into publications, making other people do work for him, and not really doing anything by himself. So I was kind of thinking that if people like these exist in this field, then why do it? And I kind of just left it. But I logically think that that's the way to go. So I would proceed. I have not entirely abandoned that career path, but it's just something that puts you off. And yeah, T and NI really are two opposite sides of the ego. So there's that.
Yeah. Okay. I know like an ESFJ who became like a forensic psychologist and was like one of the biggest names and interviewed like Jeffrey Dahmer and a lot of these like high profile killers and stuff. So she definitely like engaged in her INTP side and it's pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah.
What about SE Trickster? You talked about that a little bit, just kind of not being aware of your surroundings, not being in a present moment, hating or not really being aware of reality and being accident prone. Have you ever found yourself in that situation,
Yeah.
not being very
Uh,
athletic? And,
I have, yeah, yeah, I got my shoulder dislocated thrice, and then I had to get a shoulder surgery done. So it's kind of as good an example as you can get of SE Trickster. It's,
yeah.
and I know other INTPs as well. I mean, that's weird because every INTP I know has had problems with these. I mean, they have all faced some sort of accidents, and it's kind of weird. So there was that, and then I also tried to drive a true, uh, like ride a two-wheeler motorbike, and I did not really know how to ride it, but I just kind of thought that I would be able to do it as soon as I ride it, and it really didn't go the way it should have
Yeah.
gone. So, I mean, it wasn't that much of a big deal because um, for some reason I just fell very initially before I could power the gear on. So it wasn't really that damaging, but it kind of tells you that you kind of just have an idea in your head that this is how the actual world is going to be, but you miss some key variables of the SE world, and then when you try to do something and face some accident, that's when you realize, oh shit, this I did not consider this variable. Next time I'll do that. So next time I'll do that is what is incorporated into the SI knowledge because you remember your past mistakes very well.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story I had with me and INTP and an ESTP were riding a three-wheeler and there was something wrong with the throttle on the three-wheeler and I told the ESTP, who of course was just going to gun it and go, like, be careful, go into it easy or it's going to buck you off and it's going to get stuck and it's going to drive around. So he's like, whatever, I'm an SE user, SE hero. So he's like, and bucks him off, like a big 350-pound guy. And it's like
Yeah,
they just go driving all over every place. I finally jump up and hit the
yeah,
brake.
yeah.
They're like,
Yeah, another thing about FE inferior. Earlier, I used to have no control over my smile. Like my smiles would be this wide, like this wide. But right now, I have some control over my smiles. I can keep my teeth off. I mean, I can put my lips over my teeth. So, yeah. So FE inferior does that. You kind of just smile and don't know how to smile. You just smile very broadly. Uh,
yeah, without FE, you kind of just don't hardly smile at all. And like people are like, oh, you look scary.
Yeah.
That's kind of a
That's true.
struggle there. So
Hmm.
we're running pretty low on time here. I want to talk about
Yes, we do.
FI demon. We talked about a little bit. Do you have anything you would like to add more on that?
I think in recent times my FI has become more conscious for some reason because I have realized the necessity for having values, and I'm starting to define my values. I do know what my values are. I did not know what my values were before. I do know what my values are, and I'm ready to share it with others. And this is the one thing that I look for when starting a project is that because I've had such bad experiences with certain people of certain types, especially that right now I look for people who match values. That's the most important thing for me right now. Like people have to just have similar sets of values or it's not going to work. I understand that. Other than that, when it is unconscious, when I have gone to super ego before, it does happen. Like if nobody cares about me, then why care? But that tendency is getting lesser and lesser. I try to like give my expectations beforehand. I've learned from a mistake. SI is really helpful there. Okay.
Very cool. Last few questions I like to ask everybody. What's your favorite type and least favorite type if you have one?
I don't really have a favorite type, but iron types, definitely. I want to be with iron types all the time. If you look at my past, then INTJs and INFJs have been people with whom I could share this mind space where I could be lost forever. I mean, I had an INTJ friend when I was in ninth grade, and I don't really remember about anybody else other than them all because we had such fascinating ideas that nobody else could understand. So INTJs, INFJs, INFPs, these are the types I feel comfortable with. INTPs are great in theory, but I haven't really had great experiences with them. After a while, they just cut off. I probably do that myself, but I don't like it when others do that. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay. What would you like INTJs or another type to understand about you?
Um, Not about me, but about life. That the greatest, it's just one of my philosophies that the greatest people in the world, the most influential people in the world were um, Jesus, then it was Buddha, and then it were people like Nikola Tesla or Charles Darwin or Albert Einstein who would just spend all the time thinking and not really doing anything. So I would just say that okay, doing works for some people, but for other people, doing might just be overrated. So just don't take doing very seriously. I mean, doing is a thing that might just be optional. I don't know. That's so. If I'm not doing anything, just don't bother me. I don't know. Yeah. So that's what it is. Mm.
Inaction's a key, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Last question I have. What would you like to understand more about INTJs or another type?
Uh, yeah. For INTJs, it would be that like how can INTJs uh, be with Buddhist like philosophies like incorporate into their life, or are they just completely incompatible with those sort of stuff? So that's one of the things because you see that mindfulness and meditation are techniques that are um, often recommended to a lot of people for mental health issues and other things.
Hmm.
And for TE users, all TJ types, I've seen that they really are not fond of meditation as such. They just want to be doing things. They- So why? Can you not do things for a while, or does it really have to be action of some sort? So just the belief systems, what they have, like with one of my integer friends, I discussed it. or with any INTJ friends, whenever I discuss these things, and they are like, well, you have to do something about things, or they're not really going to change. So, yeah, I mean, it's a mystery. I don't really want an answer for that. I understand on the surface how it works, but yeah, it's very different from how I am. So that's what it is. Extroverted thinking is the T. It's mysterious.
So you do want to answer or you don't want to answer to that?
Yeah, I would love if you give me an answer.
Yeah, meditation is something I do practice. I try to do it nightly. It's kind of different for me though. It's kind of like where I just let my NI wander and I kind of get ideas and I kind of shut off my other function, just let NI wander. But sometimes I do just kind of like cut out and just let peace happen. That's kind of like why I like to do judo and exercise my SE. It just puts me in the moment. I think that's kind of like what meditation is for me. It's just being in the moment. Because if
Hmm.
you're, if you're out of the moment, then you're going to get thrown or you're going to get hurt or you're going to lose or whatever like that. But yeah, TE is about like staying busy and doing things. I have to force myself to stop and just sit back and relax and do
Uh-huh.
nothing at times, or I just get
Uh-huh.
burnt out really bad.
So would you say that the dynamic forms of meditation, as I would call it, like judo or things like that, are more helpful? Yeah, so for dynamic meditations, like judo and all of that, would you suggest that the TJ types should practice these things as opposed to the sitting meditation? Like, are they helpful in terms of keeping your mind fresh, or do they just tire you up?
Yeah, it does. It's definitely like a meditation where you're doing something. So if you can't sit still, I mean, it's definitely better than not sitting there in like lotus pose and doing that. I lay down when I do my meditations. I can never really sit up like that. But yeah, what I like about it, it brings me out of my head because I'm always stuck in with my NI and thinking about the future. So it kind of just brings me in the present moment. I think because we're all like it, TJs, like you said, we're always about like, what's the next step pretty much.
Yeah.
These INTJs, the NTJs, not so much for STJs and they're kind of like more what's in the
Yes.
past, but they're still very action prone.
Yes,
But
they
yeah,
are.
that's go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead. That's. I was just confirming that yes, ESTJs and ISTJs are also very next moment oriented. They don't look far into the future, but they really care about what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes or the next hour or something like
Yeah, what's gonna make their report look better pretty much.
that. Yeah, yeah,
Like, what's going to make me look good? These numbers,
yes,
statistics, and stuff like that.
yes,
What's going
yes,
to help
yes,
me? Yeah, but I hope that answers it. Yeah, I mean, I never
yes.
really thought about that
It does.
question that way.
It does answer. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions before we go? Anything you'd like to let the people know?
No, I think that's it. That was awesome.
All right. Well, thank you for doing this. If you made it through the whole video, we do have a Discord server where we're starting to do a weekly typing thing. It's starting to come up, and we hopefully that grows. So I'll put that down in the description. Also, go to my website, intjequation.com. Check out my other YouTube videos and podcasts and everything like that. I did start a Patreon. So if you do like this content, support that. It's just a very small $3 tier right now. Thank you for going to Clickbait and have a great day.